Good evening, everyone. We'll get started with the September Oakland Community-Wide meeting. My name is Wanda Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of Oakland Planning and Development. We're hosting the meeting tonight. We have a few updates to share with everybody, and then we have two presentations tonight. So our agenda is we'll go through some updates, and then we have a presentation from Family House, which is a development activities meeting, and then an update from University of Pittsburgh on their institutional master plan. Our first update is that OPDC has a community land trust home for sale. It's on Fraser Street, and it's a large house in move-in ready condition. Down on Fraser, it has a big yard in the back with access to the back alley, so you can have off-street parking. And it's a 4-bedroom house, and it's ready to move in, and there's no income restriction on that, so you don't have to income qualify in order to purchase this home. So if you'd like to take a look at it, we can schedule a showing. That would be a socially distanced showing, or we could also just do a showing for you on Zoom. So if you are interested or know somebody who might be interested in becoming an Oakland homeowner, please give us a call. We have our Community Land Trust Manager contact information here for Anne Marie on the screen. You can give us a call if you'd like to take a look at the house or refer somebody who you think might be interested. Next slide. And there's several things going on with design and development review that were in our newsletter a few days ago. If you'd like to review the Carlow University Institutional Master Plan, that is available. The link here goes from our website to take you to where the document is on the Carlow website, so you can find it easily. And they're asking for feedback for about, I think they have about a 30-day comment period. They just announced that at a community meeting in West Oakland last week. And there are a couple of items on the Zoning Board of Adjustment this Thursday. You can see the information for them on the City of Pittsburgh Zoning Board website, which is listed here. There's one in South Oakland and one in North Oakland. A sign on that large new building at Center and Craig, and the change of one non-conforming use to another for a house on Dawson Street at Swinburne. We didn't have detailed presentations on those because they don't meet the threshold for requiring a development activities meeting. The information of what is being proposed is on the City of Pittsburgh website listed there. We would encourage residents to join an action team that they're interested in for the Oakland plan. So the location is here on the screen at the Engage Pittsburgh website to sign up for an action team. And the Mon Oakland Mobility Project is having a public meeting on October 12th. And so we've provided the link here. And so all of these are also on our website if you'd like to take a look at those, or aren't writing them down at this moment. We have all of this information also on our website, but we wanted to highlight that as some updates. Next slide. Reminder, if you haven't, and we're also putting those links in the chat. So if you want to look at the chat for those, go ahead right now. They're in the chat box. If you haven't completed the census, or if you know of a neighbor or a relative who hasn't completed the census, please encourage them to do so, or go ahead and do that as soon as possible, at least by tomorrow. And then we've just provided some reminders about the general election, the November 3rd election. There's a location here where you can apply for a mail-in ballot, or look to make a plan for in-person voting if that's what you're planning to do. If you're not sure where your polling location is, you can You can go to this website that's on the screen. We'll also put it in the chat box so that you can make a plan for how you're going to vote on the November 3rd election. If you are going to do a mail-in ballot, needs to be received by October 27th. Next slide. Our first presentation, I will pause if anybody has any questions or comments for OPDC or anything of the updates that I mentioned. If people have questions, you can put them in the chat. And I'll also just mention how the meeting will run this evening. We'll be moderating the conversation by keeping all the participants of the meeting both muted and with video turned off. The presenters for tonight's meeting will have their video on, and they'll be unmuted to be able to present the information. If you have a question or that you would like to ask the presenters, please enter it in the chat, and then I'll be reading those questions, kind of moderating the questions through looking at the chat. We're also on Facebook Live right now, so we'll also be moderating the questions. You can also post a question on Facebook if you'd like to. And for I don't know that we have a lot of people on the phone right now who are phone only, but we'll look through if there are participants who are only participating on the phone. After we've done the questions that are posted into the chat, we'll allow anybody who's joined by phone to verbalize a question if they have for the presenters. So with that, we'll just move on to our first presentation tonight is from Family House. And we have, there we go, there's Chris. We have John Wilds from the Family House Board and Chris Bell from Family House. So I'll turn it over to you to do any other introductions that you'd like to do and go through your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on behalf of Family House Board of Directors, Executive Director Jennifer March, our volunteers and staff, and the thousands of guests we serve annually, please accept my thanks for the opportunity to make this presentation. As Wanda has mentioned, my name is John Wilds, and I am the chair of the nominating committee, and I have served as a member of the Family House Board since 2011. And she also stated that I were joined this evening by Chris Bell, who is the Senior Director of Development at Family House since March of 2019. And Chris will primarily be making the presentation. We're grateful to Wanda Wilson and the Oakland Planning and Development Corporation team for providing us with this forum to speak with our neighbors, with our Oakland neighbors, as a matter of fact.
Hi.
For those of you who are not familiar with Family House, we are a nonprofit whose mission is to provide a special home away from home for patients and their families who are in Pittsburgh seeking medical treatment by offering safe, affordable, temporary housing in a home-like environment. We were founded in 1983 by physicians, Dr. Thomas Starzl, the noted transplant surgeon, among them, and representatives from the American Cancer Society interested in providing long-term housing for patients undergoing cancer treatment, interested in building a Hope House in Pittsburgh, and concerned citizens who recognize the need to provide long-term affordable lodging for patients who were coming to Pittsburgh for our region's trailblazing medical care. At that time, Family House founders witnessed caregivers sleeping in waiting rooms, hallways, or in their cars, as well as sharing hospital meals with the patients they accompanied to the city because they could not afford hotels and meals. By addressing these temporary housing needs, Family House founders committed to reducing the financial and emotional stresses for patients and their families that accompanied medical crisis, a commitment that remains inherent in our mission today. Family House serves patients and caregivers regardless of their hospital or medical provider. Since our founding, we have provided a home away from home for more than 275,000 people. That's over a 37-year period. Chris?
Yes, thanks, John. Next slide, please. To provide the home-like atmosphere that's core to our mission, Family House volunteers and staff abide by these 5 values that serve as our guiding principles: community, compassion, hospitality, stewardship, and collaboration. Next slide, please. The Family House's property at 233 McKee was the site of the original Family House. It was one of 2 rundown fraternity houses that Family House purchased in 1983. One was demolished, and the house at 233 McKee was renovated to accommodate Family House guests. Over the next 20 plus years, 3 other Family House locations were added. One on Neville Street, in Shady Side on Center Avenue across from UPMC Shady Side Hospital, and atop the University Club, our University Place house. The McKee Family House served our mission needs for 32 years. In 2015, it was determined that while the location was ideally suited to serve the region's hospitals, the building itself could no longer meet Family House needs. Thus, it stopped serving guests that year. Over the past 5 years, Family House leadership has engaged in its board, donors, healthcare and community partners, volunteers and staff in a series of studies and strategic planning sessions to help guide the organization into the future. Central to these initiatives was to ensure Family House's long-term operations and sustainability, particularly as it relates to the McKee property. Ultimately, Family House leadership arrived at the decision to retain its property at 233 McKee Place and to rebuild on it such that it could consolidate operations for the long term. A donor feasibility study was conducted late last year, and follow-up was underway early this year when COVID-19 struck, placing on hold ongoing discussions and planning. In June, the Family House board voted to proceed with the demolition of the building and to renew discussions with key stakeholders and partners while planning for the eventual rebuild of Family House on the site. Family House then identified what items in the house it would retain for repurposing, either in one of our existing houses or in a new house. For example, stained glass windows. Then we connected with our other community partners and distributed truckloads of materials to places like Construction Junction, Habitat for Humanity, and Doors Unhinged. Truckloads were taken away for repurposing uses. We do not yet have definitive plans in place for either the actual design or timing of the rebuild. As those evolve, Family House will work with the city, OPDC, and all of our community partners and key stakeholders to ensure that Family House continues to serve this region's hospitals, healthcare providers, and residents with the same high-quality standards that have been associated with our brand since 1983. In so doing, we're also committed to maintaining our role as a good, collaborative, and responsible neighbor in the Oakland community. Next slide, please. So tonight, we're here to share with you our plans to demolish the building at 233 McKee Place and to outline the steps that this project will entail. Our contractor, PJ Dick Trumbull Lindy Paving, their subcontractor, Norelco, submitted a demolition permit to the city's Department of Permits, Licenses, and Inspections in July of this year. Site abatement was completed at the end of July, and a zoning development review application was submitted on September 16th. A full review is scheduled for October 9th. Public notice was distributed by OPDC on 9/18 on September 18th. Thank you, Wanda. And tonight's development activities presentation, obviously, is right now. The next the next steps are the Planning Commission briefing is scheduled for October 27th, and a Planning Commission hearing and action is scheduled for November the 10th. The demolition would be pending city planning approval, and the project duration is anticipated at 5 to 6 weeks once it begins. If you want to move to the next slide, please. So as you can see from this drawing, the outline, our property is outlined in red, and what you'll see in the back is the project site has a parking lot area that will be used by our demo contractor for staging equipment, trucks, and dumpsters. We were assured that at no time will the roads or sidewalks be closed. The only impact on vehicular or foot traffic will be the limited amount of times that trucks are coming to the site for hauling debris. During those times, certified flaggers will be used to control the area. The demo contractor will work only Mondays through Thursdays, 7 a.m. to 5, to avoid working on Fridays when it does get a bit busier in Oakland. There will be an initial delivery of equipment to the site. Thereafter, the only other traffic will be when debris is hauled away. Norelco, the demo subcontractor, will run 2 trucks concurrently on those days. The project site will retain the asphalt parking lot in the rear, which will eliminate nearly all dirt or mud on the streets and sidewalks from trucks. However, if for some reason that would occur, Norelco will bring in equipment to quickly clean it up. Next slide. That is, of course, my contact information if there were any questions after this meeting is over. But in the meantime, Wanda, John, and I thank you and everybody on the call for allowing us this opportunity.
Sure, thanks, Chris, for your presentation. If people have questions, please put them in the chat. I think it included the pertinent details. You were very thorough, about the timeline, and we'll update, make sure our website is updated. People can refer to it there in terms of the dates for Planning Commission, which is November 10th, again, is what your actual hearing.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
You might have been so thorough that people don't have any questions because I'm not seeing any come through in the chat.
That's a good thing.
Right. Sometimes you just do such a great job that people don't have any questions. Well, again, I'm still not seeing any questions. So thanks very much, Chris and John, for your presentation. And again, all the details will be on the Family House page on our Design Development Review website if people want to refer to it later. And thanks very much for your presentation tonight.
Hey, thanks very much, Wanda.
Thank you, Wanda. Thanks.
Now we'll move on to our second agenda item. I'd like to introduce Mary Beth McGrew from the University of Pittsburgh. She's going to give us an update on where Pitt's institutional master plan is in the process. we've had several meetings over the past couple of years, and it's been in a relatively quiet phase while the city has been reviewing the document in advance of going to Planning Commission. So, so we'll turn it over to Beth. There you are. Take it away, Beth.
Thank you. How are you tonight, Wanda?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Can you change the slide? So thank you all for being at the meeting. We wanted to let you know from the university that we've been working with the city and incorporating their comments. The city is working towards setting a planning commission briefing for us. And it's likely that there'll be multiple briefings or hearings because this plan was not a small one. It's 444 pages and a thick appendices. So it takes a little bit of time to get through all of that detail for city planning. But after that, then Planning Commission may then recommend its adoption by City Council, which would again require additional meetings. So we're still thick in the process and hope to move things along. But we had a change in the IMP that we wanted to share with the community this evening. Next slide. We decided to remove one of our sites, the Central Oakland Housing, not because it's not important to us, but it seems that there are a couple of things to consider. One is the comments from the community wanting to make sure that they understood the height and that it fit in with the neighborhood, and there were some concerns raised about that. And the second is that the city is doing a comprehensive plan for Oakland, and we thought it would make some sense to see if our housing related to that plan and that it became part of the plan. So for that reason, we are leaving the site in the plan. It'll be grayed out, but we wanted to take it out of this first version of the plan. And we still think it's an important site for the university for housing. It pulls the students closer to the university. And it also is part of the plan to move some of the students out of the neighborhood. And we will then, after we do some more meetings with you and hopefully integrate it into the Oakland plan, that we will come back and put it in as an amendment to the IMP. So we wanted to be sure to share that with the neighborhood who's been so good about coming to all of the meetings and sharing their opinions. And that was really my slides. Are there any questions? Oh, I do see a question, but I think it was for the previous group.
Yeah, I think that one, well, while people are thinking about the Pitt IMP questions, Chris, I do have a question that came through, I think, while we were transitioning to Beth's presentation. So a question for Family House about plaques honoring volunteers and whether they would be returned to families.
Thanks, Wanda. We did collect all of the plaques from the house. So if the questioner would send me an email, I will. Our intent is to, in fact, return them if an individual wishes to have them back, or to somehow arrange them in a presentation in the future at a future site. So the person can send me an email and I'll follow up to make sure that we have that plaque and then follow up from there.
Great.
Thank you.
Sure. Any questions about the University of Pittsburgh IMP? Beth, I guess I was wondering whether you would, if we could go back, Kathy, if we could go back to the slide of the various meetings and briefings. Could you tell me more about, do you think it might be 2 hearings, or do you know, has city planning said what that process, any more detail about what you think that process is going to be like? And then would it have 1 city council hearing, I'm assuming?
Because it's so long, we're thinking that the city would, and so do they, that they'd want to have 2 briefings for the plan. And at the moment, they haven't set the date because they wanted us to incorporate some of the plans. Of course, with COVID, things haven't been easy to have the same kind of correspondence that we always had, although the city's been responsive and it's a big plan. But we just had a meeting last week where we got our first really good review of the plans. We want to incorporate those comments, and then we hope to get some dates soon, and I'll be happy to share those with you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be great for us to know what, if you're actually making changes based on city planning or other city department comments, would there be a way for us to be able to sort of track those through, know what they were, oh, this department made this type of comment and here's how the document reflects that?
I believe that we have been publishing all of the comments that people have made, and we could do the same for the city. So we'll note that and find a way to make sure that they're available for people to see what they are.
And then would there be a period of time where all of the final version would be up on the website, and there would be a certain amount of time to do a final review of it before the briefing or before the hearing?
We thought that we were very close to our final, but if the comments that we're getting, most of them were tweaks on the past comments.
Okay.
And so, but absolutely, we can post the plan, and this change in the Central Oakland housing we felt was a significant change. Most of the others have to do with setbacks and things like that, but that information is often very important to people, so we'll find a way to make sure that we post it in the same way we had before and send you the link so that it can get to the community.
Okay. So there might be some minor wording or slight edits or something like that, but the one that you think is the most substantive is the one that you've announced tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. And I'm not seeing anybody who is only on the phone. So it looks like we're covered by people who are on Zoom with the functionality of being able to use the chat. So if you do have a question, please go ahead and enter it. This is a helpful update. It is a pretty substantial change to what we've seen in terms of that project not being part of the IMP. So, so I think that's great to let the community know about that. For our upcoming things that we'll be hosting is the next Oak Watch meeting is October 21st, and that's a noon meeting. It'll be on Zoom. And then the next community-wide meeting is October 27th. And I'll look one more time for comments and for anybody who's just phone only. And barring any other conversation or questions or comments, looks to be like we've had an efficient meeting tonight. So we'll wrap up now. We will have all of the information presented tonight on our website in the Design Development Review section. And glad that everybody was able to join us tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And thanks very much for participating tonight.